Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan.
I'm Aaron.
I'm at.
All right, so we got away from our questions of the day to start our shows, and I think it's about time we get back to that. So I got a good one to start. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Man, it's like super unhealthy, but I mean, I love some like fettuccine alfredo with pesto. That's
Okay.
amazing. I would take some really good pasta like that. Yeah, I
I
think I'm
feel
gonna
like you
roll
could
with that.
just say like pasta too, and that's like it
Yeah,
doesn't.
there we go. Then you have tons.
Yeah,
You're perfect. I won't be too specific. We'll just go pasta. There we
yeah. What about you, Matt?
go.
Well, I don't know if I can eat it the rest of my life, though. Gosh dang. My wife's meatloaf is to die for. That's my favorite meal, but gosh, to eat it every day, I don't know.
That's a tough. I think I'd got to go with like pizza because it's versatile. Like you can do a normal pizza, but then you could do like a barbecue chicken or like a buffalo chicken, or you could do like a white sauce pizza. Like I feel like you can still have some variety with something like that.
And that's the same thing with pasta too, because you could throw
Yeah,
seafood in there. You could throw whatever meat you want in there. You could, yeah, there's tons of different ways to go about it, different sauces. Yeah.
yeah. But honestly, like if you were doing one dish, I mean, meatloaf's got to be up there.
Well, if you like it, if it's what you like. But
That's true. That's true. But hey, you know what? Enough with this is the sports jam, not the meatloaf jam.
The
So
food jam.
we gotta, that's a different. We'll start that show maybe later. But little side story. We've had I guess we could say both a busy week, but also things have kind of slowed down this week. State tournaments going on. We started with 30 Sacramento schools in the basketball playoffs. We are down to just two. Aaron's VCA boys and my Colfax girls. We've had busy with soccer, everything like that. And I guess we just kind of gotta get into it. I know a lot of our coverage has been, recapping where we're at. We've been kind of seeing the same teams, the same team or two following them on a few games, at least in my situation. But I guess Aaron, let's start with you. Where were you at this week, and who'd you get to see as they competed for a state title?
Yeah, so on Thursday, I was at Whitney for Whitney Granite Bay 4. Yes, the fourth time they've played this season.
Look at Rocky move.
I would like to see when the last time a team has played each other four times in the same season. I don't know the last time that's happened. This was the second round of the NorCal basketball championships in D2. Proved to be another great match between two really solid SFL teams. One thing to note is I think there was honestly more people at this game than there were at Golden One Center. Of course, it's a smaller gym, so it's harder to tell. But I mean, it was filled to the brim. I mean, there was like no space at all in there. It was really good crowd. Whitney really controlled the flow of the game for the most part, starting in the second quarter. Eli Willis and Derek Lamb both picked up their fourth fouls in the third quarter, so that was kind of tough for them. Two big players kind of in foul trouble, but Jaden Hurtado, the senior, took over with 23 points and 8 rebounds. Really took over in the second half. John Daly had a double-double with 13 points and 10 rebounds. For Granite Bay, Yakub Mir had another amazing night with 27 points, including 4 3-pointers. Davis Abella added 19. I think a lot of those points came in the fourth quarter as well. But the Wildcats were just too much, had too many players that were just making big shots at big moments, and they won 73-62. The Wildcats went on to play on Saturday in the NorCal semis, and they were actually up with about 20 seconds to go against Vanden in Fairfield, but they got, I think Vanden got 3 straight offensive rebounds, and on the third one, they got a put back to win it at the buzzer. So a heartbreaking way to see the Wildcats go off, but still one heck of a season for Whitney. So huge congrats to them. Once again, just one of the most successful seasons under Coach French. And then I'll get into Friday, and then I'll throw it back to you guys. Friday, I actually saw my first spring sport event of the year, and I was already going down to Sacramento to catch a Kings game. So I figured, hey, if I'm going down there already, might as well beforehand go catch a softball game. So I went over to River City, and that's where Lincoln softball opened the season against Bella Vista. They lost 6-4 despite getting out to a solid start, scoring 3 runs in the first inning. The first RBI for Lincoln came from Mallory Hamilton. Lincoln's a much younger team this year. They have a lot of juniors and a lot of players who were up from JV last year, since they had a few seniors last year that were in their starting lineup. But the big player of the game was actually for Bella Vista. She's a junior, Alyssa Death Lefson. She was also their pitcher. She went 3 for 3 with 4 RBIs and a 2-run homer in the game. So tough when you're going up against a player of that caliber. I think she had 9 home runs last year for Bella Vista. But so 6-4 lost for Lincoln, and then they went on to lose to Pioneer later that day. That was my Thursday and Friday.
All right, I like it. Busy time. I got my first spring sports action of the week too. I'll get into that later, but I guess the first question I got to ask before, since we're talking spring sports for a minute, how high do you guys think you could pole vault?
I don't even know if I could get off the ground.
The lowest setting. I'm sure the bar would snap if I got up on it. So
I'm in the same boat, and watching some of these pole vaulters that I watched at Placer's track event the other day, I'm just like, how? Like,
Yeah.
it just looks so uncomfortable. But hey, you know what? Power to them. Matt, I know you were checking out some winter sports too. I know, a tough time for some of the Folsom teams in the playoffs. But talk about what you saw this week.
well, when you get to this time of year, it's harder to win games. So, Folsom had both the boys and the girls made the NorCal playoffs, and and both were one and done. The Folsom boys last Tuesday played Sacred Heart Prep at home. Higher seeds. Folsom was seed number 2, which I don't know how important it is you get a home game, but 2 against whatever Sacred Heart was, you'd think, wow, Folsom should win this game easily. Not the case. Much like Weston Ranch, I mean, they just their previous game, they didn't play all that great. I mean, they were up by 9 at halftime and feeling pretty good at that point. I mean, I was. I'm certain they probably were too, up by 9. But in the second half, they only scored 6 points in the third quarter. And then, from there, it's a 1-point game going into the fourth, and it's anybody's game and goes into overtime. And, Sacred Heart, Folsom missed they're up by 1, I think it was. No, up by 2 with 54 seconds to go. Front end a 1-on-1, they missed it. So that was big. If they would have made those 2, good chance of winning. Missed the front end of a 1-on-1, and Sacred Heart comes down, hits a long range 3 to go up by 2. To go up by 1, 61-60. And then Folsom made a basket, and they're up by 1. And then the Gators hit a game-winning shot with about 8 seconds to go off an inbound pass in the paint. And Folsom came down for a last shot and missed it. So lost 63-62 at OT. Justin Ard led the team with 13 points. David Young had 11. Michael Johnson and Chase Rollins both finished with 9. The following day, the girls at home win the open division against Salesian Prep, and who, by the way, won Saturday. So they're in the NorCal final against Mitty. But, I mean, which also proves that Folsom could have been there too, because this game was anybody's game, went to double overtime. Folsom had with 2:20 to play in the third quarter, I think they were up by 9 or 11. So at that point, they're looking good, just like Folsom was in the first half. But Salesian got hot from the 3-point range. They didn't hit any 3-pointers in the first half. They hit 10 in the second. And when they're hitting threes, and Folsom is either not making it or hitting 2s, they're going to catch them eventually, and they did. Folsom had a chance to win it at the end of the first overtime. They had an inbounds pass underneath the Salesian's basket. They threw a long pass. Ella Uriarte caught it, laid it up and in. Folsom's ahead with 8 seconds to go or something like that. Salesian did the same thing. They got the ball inbounded and threw it all the way down the court. Folsom was up celebrating their basket, and they forgot, hey, this game's not over yet. Salesian lays it up and in, double OT. And then the double OT was Salesian kind of controlled that from the start. So tough loss for the Bulldogs. Charlotte Climate Hayes led the team with 20 points. Cameron Bafua and Uriarte had 16 apiece. And, Vista Soccer, I wasn't at the game, but they had a NorCal game on Tuesday, and they lost 2-1 to Cardinal Newman. Coach Kennedy Chongo said, we could have won the game. We just, like a lot of times in soccer, we just didn't capitalize on opportunities, but he felt it was a winnable game. So happy to get that far, but disappointed lost to end the season.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It feels like, the section tournament, it's so interesting how, when you get to the section tournament, you go from pumping your fist, like you were saying the other day up here in the office, Matt, you go from pumping your fist, hanging a banner on Saturday, the tears, you get the hats, all that stuff. And then 3 days later, your season's over. I mean, it's a weird feeling. You almost wonder, like, what would the state tournament look like if maybe you did it the way football does it, of you have to win your section to move on into the state tournament stuff. I mean, I know that, it's tough because you see all these upsets going on. I mean, I'd be interested to look at the brackets, see how many section champions are actually left
Right. Yeah.
tournament, but also it's tough to watch when you're like, man, if you almost are better off losing in the section semifinals than you are making it all the way to the championship.
Yeah, depending on what bracket you look at, you're right. Yeah.
So it was a tough one. I was at a lot of soccer and basketball this week as well. I guess I'll talk to you about the roads that Colfax went in soccer and basketball to get to the NorCal games, but I'll get to this weekend's games maybe in my next when we kind of go back around. But I'll start with soccer. Tuesday's game that was played at Del Oro, because Colfax's field is still under about a foot of snow, but at this time it was under about 2 feet of snow. I just want to say, I'm going to take this time to say more high schools need domes, because I looked like it about 5 minutes after kickoff. I looked like I jumped into a pool fully clothed in this game. I was extremely cold. And you know what? I'm going to gripe about it. I was downright uncomfortable, and it was just not the most fun thing in the world. But hey, 2-seed Colfax was taking on Santa Clara Wilcox, and I'll say this game made it worth being out in the cold for.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Jordan. I was just going to say, I mean, like you were saying a couple weeks ago on the show, one of the most dangerous jobs out there being a sports journalist, right?
I believe it. And you know what? If we could add like the little clip from Family Guy in of what was it, Ollie being like, it's raining sideways. That's what this game was, because it was raining sideways for the whole game. Colfax, is used to beating teams 6, 7, 8-0. This one ends up going into PKs. So Colfax ends up scoring first with Kaya Diedrichs. And then I think it was the 33rd minute for her 47th goal of the season. And then Colfax kept their foot on the gas, but they play a lot of through balls, and playing with the wind at their back on a slick field, it made it kind of difficult to score on some of those through balls. And then 10 minutes in the second half, Wilcox tied it with a perfectly delivered strike from 20 yards out that just barely bent around the glove of Colfax keeper Anna Miles. I think it was like the first goal she's allowed in almost a month. It's funny. I joked saying I've talked to Colfax's coach being like, hey, how's your goalie? Because I haven't really seen her have to do much all year. And she actually says, she plays her best when she is being challenged. So it was nice watching her get, kind of a team that could challenge her. So we go into extra time, and both teams had multiple chances to score in extra time. Extra time almost could have ended 4-4 after a 1-1 tie after the first 80 minutes. So we're still tied 1-1. Both goalies make impressive plays. So we're going to PKs. And Colfax didn't need 5 PKs because they blanked the Chargers 3-0 in the first 3 attempts. So get this, Kaya Diedrichs comes out and she moves to goalie for the penalty kicks. She stops all 3 penalty kicks and then scored the 3rd penalty kick that was the game winner for Colfax to send them in. And then not even 2 hours later, she was out playing in the basketball regional tournament against Christopher, and I'll get to that in a minute. But then Colfax came out Thursday, much nicer weather at Del Oro, and they blanked University Prep out of Reading 3-0 to advance to the NorCal Championship. So it's cool because 1 year ago Colfax got moved up to D4, had to play the number 1 seed and lost in the first round. And then 1 year later, they moved up in that same bracket and were playing for a NorCal title. So congratulations to them. Awesome job for that. Colfax took control. They scored in the 36th minute to start, and they were bombarding the Panthers. I think they had 13 shots in the first half. It looked like UPrep tied it in like the 64th minute, I believe it was, after making a rebound shot on a corner or on a free kick. And I'm going to be honest. I thought this girl was onside from where I was standing, but the referee called it offside. So instead of 1-1, it's 1-0. And then 4 minutes later, freshman Kaylee Ford drilled a rebound into the net and put Colfax up 2-0. Another freshman, Sonia Daves, added some insurance in the 75th minute. So a tough swing for UPrep, but the goal wouldn't have really mattered the way Colfax was bombarding them. They end up winning 3-0. So, an impressive performance there, and we'll get into the state matchup in the second go around. So I'll move over to basketball, the first couple games for that. So right at 2 hours after playing in the NorCal regional for soccer, Kaya Diedrichs went out and was the leading scorer and dropped 19 in Colfax's win over Christopher High of Gilroy. This was a tough matchup for the Falcons, and I actually was talking to the coach, and she was like, I was more nervous about this than any potential second round matchup because of how this team stacked up to us. Christopher playing in Gilroy, they're used to seeing schools that can throw the press on you, that have good guard play, and they can shoot the ball. And, that made it tough for Colfax because that's their MO. And a lot of these teams in the northern section, Sac Joaquin, aren't necessarily playing like that the way, teams in the Bay Area are. And Christopher actually led 32-21 at halftime. And for the second year in a row, Colfax is looking at an opening round exit in the regional tournament. Gabby Bittner came out in the third quarter, scored 9 of Colfax's 12 points to cut the deficit to 3 heading into the fourth. And then with 4:13 to play, Colfax took its first lead since the first quarter as Bittner found Macy Hyman for an open layup. Falcons made 8 of their 12 free throws in the final quarter. They really battened down the hatches on defense. They forced turnovers. They rebounded well. Diedrich scored 10 in the fourth quarter. Like I said, she led the Falcons with 19, was 6 of 6 from the line in the final quarter. And that brought up the game against Lassen on Thursday night for the NorCal quarterfinals. And Colfax ended up, they started out on a 21-3 run. And Lassen ends up pulling back in to within 5, I believe. And then Colfax just kind of, turned it on into this next gear. And there was this one little exchange that I really felt was the big swing. Macy Hyman made a shot that was what I thought was a dagger for Lassen. She sunk a layup and got fouled in the process, which made it, I believe, like 61-43 or something. And then instead of making the next free throw, she actually missed it, and Juliet James grabs it and puts it back up to make put Colfax up 20. So it was kind of like, if Hyman's shot was a dagger, then Juliet James kind of twisted the dagger with the rebound and the putback there. Colfax ends up beating Lassen 67-45. Big win for them, setting up a game against number 2 Branson this last weekend. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But Aaron, let's throw it back over to you for the second half of your week. Where were you at?
Yeah, so on Saturday, I hadn't announced a game in like 3 weeks, and I was kind of like in the fever of wanting to announce a basketball game. So I actually threw the offer out to announce VCA's boys semifinal game, and so I went over there and I covered it and announced that, and turned out to be a really good game. The one thing I'll say is VCA has been facing some teams that only have like 7 and 9 players, and obviously they have a lot of depth which helps them out, but I mean, you still have to beat that talent, and Napa Christian has a lot of talent. But VCA managed to win 108-89. And Napa Christian, they have a lot of young guys. They have a couple of freshmen. One of them, Sadiq Alarbesh, had 38 points, including 12 3-pointers in the game. And, a couple of the threes that he made that were in a row, were just because VCA wouldn't get back in coverage in time. But a couple of them were just that Sadiq was just beating their guys. I mean, Sadiq would get past the half-court line a couple of times, and he would shoot like a 30-foot Steph Curry shot, and it would just go in. Just super talented. The Lions were led by Chase Clary with 26 points. Jordan Hurley had 25 points and 10 rebounds. I'll get into him a little bit more later. Ian Glaspie had 23, and then Daniel Bearcat with 16. The system has been working great for them. They trailed in the first quarter, but after that, they basically led from the second quarter on. They went on a 13-2 run to start the second quarter, and it was pretty much lights out from there. One thing I will say is they're going to be in the NorCal Championship on Tuesday night. They're going to be traveling down to San Francisco to take on San Francisco Waldorf, the top seed. VCA does need to hit their free throws on Tuesday, because one issue for them in Saturday's game is they were only 12 of 27 from the free throw line, and they still won by 19. So take that into account, and they still scored 108 points. Take that into account. Yeah, I think they're going to need to hit their free throws against San Francisco Waldorf, because I think Waldorf is a much more sound defensive team, and so it'll be interesting to see what they can do there.
Definitely. I think that's going to be a good matchup, and it's going to be interesting seeing how Waldorf adjust to that Grinnell system, because I don't know how many teams are used to that. Matt, over to you. What was the second half of your week like? I know you kind of started hitting spring sports.
Yeah, this was a softball week, just because softball teams were out playing, and Folsom was playing Vista this Thursday, so I figured I'll just start softball last week, baseball this coming week. So last Thursday, it wasn't a real game, but it was a Folsom High scrimmage Del Campo. So I just went out there, took a look at the team. They're Folsom's coming off their best season, at least in 20 years. I don't know what they did before I got here, but this was their best season since I've been around. League champs, and reached the semifinals of the D1 playoffs. But they got a new coach this year, so we'll see what happens. They have 7. Or the new coach is Sheena Jackson, by the way. They have 7 returning players from last year's team, 4 seniors. Gracie Carpenter is Roth, Lauren Holcomb, and Haven Slamma. There's a name for you, Haven Slamma, softball player. That's a great name. But anyway, they have some talent returning, but they lose all their pitching. So I think it's pretty simple to say if the Folsom's new pitchers can hold their own in the SFL, I think they'll be all right. If they struggle, then I think the team will struggle. And then Friday, I went to Capital Christian to watch Oak Ridge play, and that was a real game. But where did I write that down here? Oh, and Oak Ridge, again, they've struggled the last couple of years. They've been rebuilding really young teams. Like last year, I think they had 3 seniors. This year, they only have 2 seniors. So really a lot of freshmen and sophomores in the program. Last year, they went 8-16 overall, but only 1-14 in the SFL. And they only have 2 seniors on this year's roster. So, it's hard to see. I don't see them being much better than last year unless these players, they have 9 players back from last year's team. So unless all 9 of these players take a big step in improving, it could be another long year. But they won this game 3-1. It was a good start. One of their top players, Jessica Zelensky, I always watch that name. She had 2 hits and 2 RBIs to lead the team. And Ellison Schroeder, she pitched well. She only allowed 2 hits. One was a home run. But if they get pitching like that from her all year long, then they, in softball, if you have the pitching, you can compete. So I don't know if she can do that against the SFL, but if she can, they could surprise some people.
Definitely. I think the SFL, it's one of those where just again another sport where it's like, man, how do you compete in this league night in, night out? And I know we were saying I thought Del Oro softball was on a down year this year, and they went and beat Sheldon 7-0 last Wednesday to open their season. So, and Sheldon is a powerhouse in softball, so it's like, well, my God, what every team in this league they don't rebuild, they just reload. And
Yeah.
Same with Whitney. Whitney graduated like a couple of twin sisters last year. I think the Jokums, who were very solid players, and I was like, I don't know what they're going to do this year. They go out and they win their first game, I think like 3 or 4, or they won 5-0. And I forget exactly who they played, but it was somebody who was really good. They have O'Day, who hit a homer like a 3-run homer in the game. It's just stacked. The league is just designed to be stacked, I guess.
It's just it really is. It's almost unfair. It's
with Jesuit and Davis coming.
Yeah. The 2 schools that have 2 of the most section titles. You might not see it in football and basketball, but I was telling someone like water polo, I think every SFL school was ranked in like the national top 25 this year. And I'm like, you'd be seeing 3 or 4 of those schools nationally ranked not even make the playoffs. That's insane to me. But hey, it's testament to the league. The second half of my week, I'll finish up with the basketball and soccer of Colfax before getting into what I hit for spring sports. Soccer, their run came to an end in the last game of the year, the NorCal title. Colfax lost to Miramonte at Bakersfield 1-0. Their leading scorer, Kaya Diedrich, she actually went down with a hamstring injury early on in the game. They believe it's a pulled hammy, so hopefully she's okay from that. But Angie Rodriguez of Miramonte scored just outside the penalty box about 5 minutes into the second half. And then, the Lions defense kind of stood up Colfax and shut them down the rest of the game. They hang on for the 1-0 victory. So, it's a tough pill to swallow if you're Colfax, but at the same time, you made it to the last game of the year, and it's never easy, losing like that. But I think you'll look back later and realize, like, hey, we made a great run. We were a small school that played up a division, and we were one goal away from winning, a NorCal title. So
You said Miramonte of Bakersfield?
Of Bakersfield, yes.
How did they get into the NorCal playoffs?
That I'm not sure. But
yeah, because I would think that they'd get put
Bakersfield, I know, is always a gray area, because here's what's happening. My senior year of high school at DO, we played Bakersfield in state for football. And then 3 years later, I believe, Del Oro played Bakersfield in the NorCal title game for football. So Bakersfield, I think, is kind of Bakersfield and like the Clovises and whatnot. They're always that like gray area. I think it kind of depends on what the North and the South do of where they put those central section teams.
Yeah, I've just always thought like Fresno's like the farthest south that like NorCal would go, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm wondering, maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe it depends on like where the schools that won the central section lie geographically, if they go north or south. Who knows? But hey, either way, congratulations to Miramonte. Picking up that win as a 5 seed, and you had to go on the road 3 times to win a NorCal title. So good job for them. And then Colfax girls basketball had to hit the road for the first time all postseason on Saturday. Section or state, they went to number 2 Branson for the D3 semifinals. Branson, the defending D4 state champs. A little bit interesting with the seeding, because Branson lost to San Domenico twice this year, and Colfax beat San Domenico by 25. So, interesting how Branson got the 2 seed nod over Colfax. But hey, you know what? To be a state champion, you got to beat everyone in the bracket either way. And Colfax proved that in this one. Branson came out hot. I don't know if it's Branson came out hot or Colfax came out cold. Colfax had 5 traveling calls in the first 6 minutes. Now, I was watching this one on NFHS because my fiance and I had our wedding cake tasting Saturday, so I wasn't able to make the drive down. I wouldn't have made it in time. So I was watching on my computer, and I'll say I didn't agree with every traveling call that they made, but they were calling them very quick both ways. And I didn't agree with over half of the traveling calls they made both ways, but they were calling it consistently, and Colfax did adjust after, getting 5 traveling calls in 6 minutes, which is not the way you want to open up a game. But Branson, they led after 1 pretty heftily. Colfax made a pushback and only trailed 27-23 at the half, which you have to think they would take after how that first half went. And then the Falcons opened the third quarter with a 13-0 run to take a 40-33 lead into the fourth quarter. And then get this, the final score was 41-40 Colfax. Colfax scored just 1 point in the fourth quarter. And there were times where it felt like no matter what they put up, how open it was, Branson, maybe, I didn't see where the camera was panned. I'm not saying that they put a lid on the rim for the fourth quarter, but I'm just saying there were a lot of shots where I'm like, man, how did that bounce out? All jokes aside, I know Branson didn't actually put a lid on the rim, so no one please take that seriously. They played great defense in the fourth quarter, and Colfax just couldn't make those shots. Macy Hyman actually made the lone shot of the fourth quarter. It was a free throw with just under a minute left. And then Branson comes down. They have a chance, and lo and behold, the theme of the game, a traveling call, gives the Falcons the ball back with 38 seconds left. And you know what's funny? I also didn't think this one was a travel. But hey, you know what? Traveling call is called. Colfax gets the ball back, and then they end up putting up a shot finally. They miss it, but they get the offensive rebound, and then they play an incredible game of keep away. Branson doesn't actually get a foul them until there's 1.9 seconds left. And then Colfax misses a free throw. Branson gets a rebound, calls timeout right away. They have about 1.5 left to shoot it. And on a cross-court pass, Jade Bittner gets the interception, and Colfax pulls off I don't want to say the miracle, but they hang on for a 21st win in a row. And now they're hosting number 9 Carruthers on Tuesday night for the NorCal Regional Championship. Winner gets to face either number 1 Rancho Cucamonga, or sorry, Los Osos out of Rancho Cucamonga, or Redondo Union out of Redondo Beach at Golden One Center. Now, I will say, as a rider who is going to be following Colfax no matter what, I'm a little upset that if Redondo Union doesn't win, that this game isn't going to be in Redondo Beach. Just saying. You know, we play the football games in the home sites. Maybe give me a free trip to Redondo Beach. It happens. But congrats to Colfax. I mean, a great year. Second time in 4 years that they're playing for a NorCal title. So, you know, great program building over there. And I did get to hit some spring sports on Friday as well. I checked out Placer's track meet, the Lefebvre relays. Awesome job. You know, awesome watching those. And there weren't really a ton of results posted. It was more kind of the preseason opener and everything like that. But, you know, results are slowly starting to trickle in. So I'll have some of that. But that was a great thing to watch. And then I got to watch some baseball for the first time. Placer opened its season against Woodland Friday night. And the final score was 4-2. But Placer actually pitched a no-hitter in this one. 3 pitchers combined for it. Jake Graham had a great start for it. Sorry, I've got the stats for it on my phone. Jake Graham started, 2 errors and 4 walks were the only base runners that Woodland got in this one. Jake Graham pitched 3 innings, struck out 4. He allowed 1 run, and then Cam Staton actually came in relief. There was 1 pitcher kind of in between, didn't have the best outing, but Cam Staton went 3 2/3 innings, allowed no hits, no runs, no walks, and struck out 9 to just shut the door on Woodland. Placer wins 4-2. Sac State bound shortstop Cohen Meyer, his first at bat of the season was about 3 feet from being a home run to dead center. Off the bat, I thought it was gone. It just bounced off the wall. I think if we were in maybe 1 or 2 weeks later where the temperatures are a little higher, I think that ball is gone. So, you know, that's got to feel pretty good that your second time, you know, I think it was a 1-1 count. Your second swing of the bat all season, you're about 3 feet from taking a home run dead center. That's probably a sign that it's going to be a pretty good year for you. But Placer is a team. They returned 7 starters from last year's team. They've got solid pitching. They've got solid bullpen. This is a team that I think, you know, Aaron, we've kind of talked about how good the FBL is for baseball, and there's not really a bad team in that league this year. There's 6 playoff caliber teams. Placer is a team that they're like, hey, you know, we may not be the first team people think of in this league, but they're like, this is a team that can absolutely win a league and a section title. And they've actually said too that, you know, their season ended last year in extra innings, losing to Galt 12-4 in the second round. The lineup card from that game was still up in the dugout when they got in on Friday. And they said they really used that as motivation. Now, I asked Placer's coach about it. He's like, I think I might have just forgotten to take it down from the last game. But he's like, if the kids are using that as motivation for this season, then, you know, good for them, because they should have a sour taste in their mouth of how that ended. So Placer, you know, a team to watch out for this year coming in. And, you know, it's refreshing to kind of get some spring sports out there too. I wish we maybe had the spring weather to go with the spring sports, but I think after this week, we're starting to get in the clear for that. And, you know, this week coming up, I know it's kind of tough with the state tournament still going on. We don't know where we're going to be. I know tomorrow night I can confidently say that I'm going to be at Colfax and Carruthers for the NorCal title. I'm hoping that maybe with some decent weather tomorrow, I can check out a little bit of Placer and Roseville's baseball game. And same thing with Wednesday. I'm hoping I can check out a little bit of Del Oro and West Park baseball, kind of getting in there on Wednesday. But again, you know, weather's making it kind of tough to watch some of these spring sports right now. Aaron, over to you. Do you know where you're going to be yet this week?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where I could be at anywhere between 0 and 4 events this week, depending on Mother Nature. But my initial plan right now is Tuesday, I want to be at West Park for softball against 12 Bridges. It would be West Park's season opener, and it'd be the Rhinos' second game. They actually won their first game 17-14 against Rio Linda on Thursday. But again, that's weather permitting, so we'll have to see what happens there. Thursday, I have a couple of options, weather permitting once again, of course. I'll either be at Oakmont Roseville baseball or Mesa Verde and Valley Christian baseball. And then Friday, once again, weather permitting, but also I'm going to be at Golden One Center if Sierra Canyon's boys team happens to make it, because I want to go see Bronny play with a couple of my friends, because I have not seen him play live, and that's LeBron's son for anybody out there who's wondering, Bronny James. And of course, if Colfax makes it too, I'll probably want to see, you know, them in the state championship. But if neither of those happen and if the weather's good, then I'm either going to be at Marysville Valley Christian baseball, Del Oro Roseville baseball, Yuba City at Whitney baseball, or Lincoln and Roseville boys lacrosse, because I do want to get out to a boys lacrosse game for Lincoln, and I'm thinking it's either going to be this Friday or it's going to be next Monday when they play Nevada Union. So I want to see what they've got going on. But yeah, a lot of it is weather permitting for sure.
Out of curiosity, I've never covered lacrosse. I assume that's a game you're playing rain or shine, right?
I would imagine so. Yes, I didn't go to any lacrosse games in the rain last year, but I would imagine that's one you're playing.
Yes, they play in the rain.
Matt,
Yeah.
that did not sound like a thrilled yes, and I feel like you had a bad experience covering lacrosse in the rain.
Well, no, I don't mind. It's just they do play in the rain. So I mean, who likes to stay in the rain? I mean,
Here's the one thing I'll say. Rain games are never fun to cover when you're standing out there at them, but some of the photos you get from rain games and stuff like that, they're fun to watch and it's good photos. It's just not always the most fun thing in the world. They almost need to give us all those like little umbrella hats.
Yeah.
yeah.
But Matt, over to you. Where are you going to be at for the second half of this week?
Yeah, well, it looks
for the whole
looks
week.
like looks like we might have some rain today. I'll probably get a little wet tonight, but Vista softball's got a home game today at 3:30. I'm going to catch that against Bella Vista, and then Vista boys lacrosse is at Granite Bay tonight. So somewhere in there has got to be some raindrops falling, I think, but that's the plan. Tuesday I'm not here. Wednesday it looks like it's going to rain, so I really don't have anything that day. Thursday, Folsom and Vista play each other at Folsom Lake College in baseball, so I'm hoping that gets, hopefully that will get played. And Friday I have a vacation day. Saturday I'm going to Motherlode Rugby up at Ponderosa High School against it's a San Mateo or San Marin, some Bay Area team. So I'm going to check out some rugby on Saturday.
Fun fact, Matt, I actually almost coached for Motherlode Rugby a few years ago. I had applied for the coaching job with them and everything, and then right before I was about to accept it, my old club that I played for in high school offered me a coaching gig instead. So, I almost had a fair share of Motherlode Rugby attire in my wardrobe. But we did have some impressive performances over this last week. I've mentioned Kaya Diedrichs scoring 2 goals in the state tournament, making 3 saves and penalty kicks, and then dropping 19. And I believe she had 12 or 14 in the semifinal game. So, she's got to be up there. Macy Hyman as well. And, Cam Staton, anytime you strike out 9, I mean, God, that's tough to do in a video game, but 9 hitless or 3 2/3 hitless innings and striking out 9 of the 11 batters you face. 2 of them came with the bases loaded in the 4th inning, I believe, to keep Woodland, kind of limit the damage from Woodland. I mean, an impressive performance from them. I got to give it to them for my athletes of the week. I guess Gabby Bittner as well. It's just too many up in this Auburn area to choose from because so many are doing so many great things out there in these state tournaments. Aaron, over to you. I know you had some impressive performances as well.
Yeah. So for Lincoln, I mentioned that the Rhinos softball team defeated Rio Linda last week. Mia Tetz, junior, went 4 for 5 with 6 runs batted in the home opener. She was also 12 Bridges' first girls wrestler to compete at Masters. She wrestled in the 116-pound weight class. So pretty impressive to see her be able to go straight from wrestling now into softball and be able to have that big of an impact that early on. So she's my athlete of the week for the Lincoln area. For the South Placer area, despite coming off the bench, Jordan Hurley for Valley Christian boys basketball, 25 points and 10 rebounds, double-double. It's like when I say coming off the bench, it doesn't hold as much weight to other teams because of the system that Valley Christian runs. But still, I mean, you're having that much of an impact as the second group coming off the bench and you're having 25 and 10. That's just huge. So he's going to get the nod there for athlete of the week. But, some other impressive performances. Chase Clary in that Valley Christian game, 26 points. In baseball, we had Jim Lenz out this game, the Wood Creek Rockland game, and Wood Creek won that one, I believe 11-2. Wyatt Harris for Wood Creek hit a grand slam in that win. Quincy Malborough of Del Oro went 3 of 4 with 3 RBIs and a win over Pioneer last week. And then Sarah O'Day, as I mentioned earlier, of Whitney softball, 3-run home run and a 5-0 win over Elk Grove. That was the team, and Elk Grove is a very good softball team as well.
Definitely. It feels like this area just we're loaded with good baseball, softball, with good track. I mean, it feels like we just don't have bad teams in this area.
I will say, and this is potentially anybody who hears this is a challenge thrown out there because last year, and I think a lot of people from the area would say it was probably one of the most talented years for high school softball we have seen in the area with just the amount of teams and how well everybody was. I don't think we're going to get that this year, but that's my challenge out to all of those teams in the area. Let's see what you guys can go do this year. I'm interested to see what some of these teams can do without the amount of seniors and senior leadership that there was last year.
Definitely. And Matt, over to you. Kind of bring us home of the athletes of the week. Who'd you see that impressed you this week?
Well, listen to this. Okay. Folsom High junior Alex Watts, 16-year-old. She's a precision rifle shooter, has been shooting over at the club in Lincoln for many, many moons. She recently qualified for Junior Olympics. That's the third time she's qualified. And she was an automatic qualifier. These qualifiers are 600 points. To qualify automatically, you got to shoot a 580 or above out of 600. She shot a 582. So next month she's going to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs to compete in Junior Olympics. Now this 582 score, this is how her dad put it in perspective for shooting. From a standing position using an air rifle from 33 feet of distance, 52 of Watts's 60 shots went through a straw without touching it.
Wow.
17 shots skimmed the edge of the straw, and one shot took out the side. So that's some precision there.
Yeah. So note to self: don't break into her house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and her two older sisters and her dad also shoot. So yeah, that's a house you want to avoid.
Yeah. And if you have a paintball team, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow, that might take the cake. That's athlete of the week for the Gold Country area. I mean, I don't think we can top that.
Well, hey, she trains in Lincoln, so she lives in Folsom. So if we could get something up your way,
She drives through Auburn, maybe. She maybe drives through Loomis to get there. I don't know. All right, that's got to beat it there. Another big week of sports coming up for us. Like we said, we'll be everywhere. We still got some winter stuff going on. Spring sports kicking off. Rain or shine with a few of them. So happy to still have some of that stuff. But before we wrap this thing up, does anyone have anything we want to add?
Bye-bye.
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron.
I'm Matt.
We will see you next time.